For the youngest Japanese, the day usually starts like this. As I watched their arrival at a school along the Old Tokaido, I noticed that some of the lessons regarding politeness seem to have sunk in quite well. And inadvertently, I sense career planning starts at a very early age in this country. Already it is clear who will be driving high-speed trains, or work in the tax office, and who will aim for a career in fashion, or on a sports field. There are more modest ambitions on display as well, along with budding artists and performers, and even a future politician or stand-up comedian. At this age, it's hard to tell the difference. Kakagawa was an important castle town in Hiroshige's time. A replica of the original building still dominates the city. And while it was being reconstructed, the town's planners built a park around it, giving Kakagawa an altogether pleasant atmosphere. The Old Tokaido weaves in and out of its newer counterpart past Kakagawa, but I don't get the impression it's worth searching for its exact path. This is not a particularly attractive stretch of the road. In places like this, one longs for the simpler times that Hiroshige knew. Then the road to Fukuroi was considerably quieter, with a bird perched on top of the only sign, and a few porters taking a break at a makeshift stall. One of them is smoking a pipe. Another checks the fire on which a woman is boiling a pot of tea. Fukuroi took its tea pretty seriously then, and it still does today. Just outside town is a large plantation where young Japanese find out more about the country's national beverage.
日本のお茶の1年間の育て方。1年間の育て方が書いてありますかなっていう。
Along with the children, I find out when tea leaves are harvested a first time.
これが5月という意味です。5月ですね。この5月。それでは皆さん、ちょっと葉っぱを取ってみましょう。葉っぱを取ってみましょう。
These children will not only pick their tea, by the end of the day they should practically know how to grow and process their own. That's far more than I need to know, so I decide to head on. Along the way, I cross the Tenryū River, where Hiroshige drew his image for Mitsuke, the Tokaido's 28th station. Of all his river crossings, this one is probably the best. The Tenryū flowed far too rapidly to rely on porters, so here the shogunate had to allow boats. Hiroshige shows two of them in the foreground, and others ferrying people back and forth in the distance. Past Mitsuki, the Old Tokaido has been largely paved over by a busy road. But there are other ways to get to Hamamatsu. By train, it takes just 15 minutes. Among the passengers is Daisuke Saito, a young designer heading back to the office from a meeting in Kakagawa. Having started the day with some observations on careers, I like the idea of joining him to see what his work environment looks like. After all, this country turns out some of the best products ever built and designed. It'd be great to see how some of this comes about. And Hamamatsu is not a bad place for that. It is one of Japan's most important industrial cities, with several major car and motorcycle makers, along with Kawai and Yamaha, the world's leading musical instrument makers. Yamaha makes a great deal more than instruments these days, from golf clubs to kitchens and consumer electronics, keeping its designers quite busy. But today's meeting focuses on one of the core products, a digital piano which, Daisuke Saito believes, needs a different look. During the meeting, it becomes clear he wants this piano to look more cheerful, explaining the flowery design on the table. But much of what I hear sounds like typical designer talk about the need for something new and different. Of course, designers can only determine what the piano will look like, not what it sounds like. That's where engineers like Seiji Abe come into the picture. He wants to make sure the designers don't get too carried away. I'm impressed by his commitment to make this instrument sound better than anything else in the market. But at the same time, I suspect engineers all over the world share that desire. So there's nothing uniquely Japanese about this either, except for what is not being said. The clear understanding that this is a team effort. As a result, these people take their task seriously. They work long hours, seldom take vacation, and even on days off will be working out new ideas. That attitude helps create not only fine digital pianos, but great cars and cameras, and just about everything in between. Behind Yamaha's main office is the company's grand piano factory. Here there are no digital tricks or flowery designs. This work is based on tradition and craftsmanship. This is a very different working environment, but here too one senses this is a team at work. That type of organization and dedication exists elsewhere as well, but I still sense there is something more. A level of loyalty to work and to the company that is deeply ingrained and causes employees to go the extra mile. It may not always be a productive extra mile, but in a global marketplace, even a little distance can go a long way. It is still early when I leave Yamaha, giving me a chance to explore Hamamatsu a bit more. The ACT Tower, its tallest building, reminds me of Hiroshige's image, where he used a tree and a fire to divide the composition, as if to remind us that Hamamatsu is traditionally considered the halfway point of the Tokaido. In the distance, he shows the town and its castle, but again, he appears more interested in people, showing a young woman with a baby on one side of the tree and a number of porters on the other. Today, most travelers wait nearby, at Hamamatsu's railroad station or in front of it, at its busy circular bus terminal. As I walk around it, I notice there is a bus heading towards Maisaka, once the Tokaido's 30th station. We follow the precise path of the Old Tokaido on this particular route, though there isn't much on either side of the road to remind us of that. The nearer we are to Hamamatsu Center, the more likely it was completely destroyed during the war. Most of the road consists of small businesses and retail operations. But as we get closer to Maisaka, we drive through a street lined on both sides with the pine trees of old, proving that some of the Old Tokaido survived. In the center of Old Maisaka, the trees have disappeared, but there are other Tokaido remnants. This building is one of them. It is a Wakihonjin. This is where high officials stayed in the past. Daimyos stayed in even more luxurious surroundings, but that building has long disappeared. Still, if this is any indication, traveling the Tokaido of old wouldn't have been a disagreeable experience, provided you belong to the right class.